Music. The only career I could ever imagine myself doing when I grew up. Right throughout high school, I tried so hard to pursue this career, and then I finished school and, well, life hit. My dreams became a blur and survival was all I had time for. I almost gave up on the dream that I had since a little girl, but then I decided not to, and here is that story. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is a farm that I've been on for a weekend. We are situated near Byron Bay. If you don't know where Byron Bay is, just think Thor, Chris Hemsworth, he lives around here. But what I did want to say, I thought we would sit down and have a chat about how I almost gave up on a music career and how I ended up getting back on track with a music career. But first, unfortunately, it's time to leave this beautiful Byron hinterland farm and go back to the hustle and bustle of Sydney, Australia. So let's go for a fly. I just went through airport security and I'm always having new tips every time to share with you about how to get through airport security with feeding tube and other things because I'm getting better at it every time I fly. So my top tip would be let them know that you have a feeding tube, where the feeding tubes are. Just say I've got one like here and here, but you can still go through the x-ray machine. Just let them know. Be like, I can still go through the x-ray machine, but just letting you know I have a feeding tube here and here. And then you can walk through. Make sure to disconnect as well. Disconnect if you can your feet and stuff. That's the best way to do it. So if you disconnect, tell them where it is and then just go through. And then if you do that, it should be fine. I've done that the past 2 flights I've had this month and it has worked wonders. It's fine. There's no questions, nothing. Everyone's happy. I'm happy. Alright, let's go catch this flight.
I try my best, I do my head, get out the door. Yeah, when I'm home, I'm lying on the bathroom floor. If you saw my pain, would you love me the same? What if the
So now that I'm home, I've put a load of washing on, I've had a shower. There is just nothing like coming home to your own place and just chilling. However, I must say, because I live in Sydney, spending time in the countryside on a farm is so relaxing. The hustle and bustle of Sydney is not always welcome, in my opinion. So I almost didn't even try getting into the music industry at all. And let's talk about it. So to set the scene, in school, I was really keen on writing and performing my own songs. All throughout my high school years, I was writing songs, singing them in front of crowds of people, sometimes around about 20 people and then sometimes up to 10,000 people. I spent the majority of my high school years performing and I was pretty keen that this was actually what I wanted to do when I grew up. However, in year 12, I graduated school and I realized I need to get a quote-unquote real job. I didn't really want to go to university to study music because I knew that that was a scam. Personally, my thoughts on going to university to study creative subjects is a whole bunch of money for no job at the other end, and most jobs in creative industries prefer people with experience rather than people with qualifications. In fact, sometimes going on to get qualifications can ruin your shots at having a chance because you spent all your time studying at uni and you've had no experience, whereas someone else may not have been studying and had a lot of time to just get out there and get experience, and they're gonna have more of a favor over that person than you. Unfortunately, that is just the case. I think uni is a great tool when you actually need it for subjects such as medicine or law or business, but even with business, it really depends. But I had come to realize this myself and thought, I'm not gonna spend a whole bunch of money going to uni because I cannot afford that. I would have to pay for it myself and I did not have that money. I then made the decision that I was going to take a gap year. I was working in a pharmacy, which was my quote-unquote real job for the time. And while I was working in the pharmacy, I was also doing an internship with my church while I was also doing music on the side, more so as a hobby. Me and my best friend from high school, we formed this duo where we like, I don't know, I feel like it was like K-pop inspired, really cringe. I look back at that and I laugh. But my best friend, we had so much fun doing it, so no regrets there. It was also in 2019 that I had an opportunity come up to drive up to Byron Bay, stay on that very farm that I was at this morning. And every day I was driving across from that farm to the studio in Byron Bay where I was recording my own music. Unfortunately, that fell through. I always wanted my music recorded, but getting my music recorded was always a difficulty because I didn't have the money for it. It's very expensive. If anyone knows the expenses that goes into getting your stuff recorded, it ain't cheap. And then of course 2020 rolled around, the whole music scene shut down, everything shut down, and I also got really sick to the point that now I require a feeding tube in order to function. At this time, we didn't know what was going on, but I had to completely quit my job. I wasn't able to work anymore. My doctors told me to quit because I was trying really hard to make it work, but it just wasn't working. I was ending up in hospital. My boss wasn't the nicest and wasn't very understanding or forgiving. I could get into that, but I won't. It was just a very abusive workplace, unfortunately. So here I was with no job and I had medical expenses that I needed to pay. So in order to pay for my medical expenses, I went back to what I knew. I went to music. Where I grew up in the Port Macquarie area, the busking scene is very prevalent. I would bus there for 2 to 3 hours and I was making an average of $100 an hour. I do know that at the time I was a lot younger. I looked younger than I was. I would put on makeup, I would look really nice and presentable, and I'd bring my guitar and I'd sing. And I loved it because I'd get all this money, but then I'd also get a lot of people coming by and we'd have conversations and they'd make comments on how good they thought my performance was, and I was very flattered by a lot of the conversations I had with people. I had local musicians in the area who were quite well known outside the area for various different bands that are now based in Port Macquarie. I had them give me $50 to $100 a time. I didn't even think people had cash anymore. Well, it turns out they did. Because I was busking a lot, I did get a lot of attention from some people who were walking past who were then inviting me to then do gigs at different various events. That was really cool to have a few opportunities in there to kind of do events and stuff as well, because people would come past, see me busking, give me their card or their number and say, hey, I'm running this thing, would you like to come do the music for it, which was really cool. I'm writing a lot of stuff. I have a whole bunch of songs and I'm like, hey, I think I could really take this on as a career. Up until this point, I thought my health was a no-go zone. I was like, no, I'm too sick for anything. I have to give up everything, because unfortunately, when I looked on social media, especially after I was diagnosed with gastroparesis and then later, a couple months later, diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I would look at what was online and see that a lot of people were sharing that, oh my goodness, I had to give up everything because of my health. And for some people that may have been the case, but I didn't realize that I had a choice and that there was an option for me and that I could still do it, and that it would be difficult and hard, but I could still achieve it. So something clicked in my brain at this point where I was like, maybe I might be able to do this low-key. Let's see if I can get some songs recorded. I knew that my mom had gone to uni up in Lismore. My mom went there to do teaching, but I also had a massive music program back in the 90s that I think Jimmy Barnes may have even came out of there. Don't quote me on that. I think he might have though, but the Wiggles came out of there. The original Wiggles, who were the Cockroaches back then. You also had, I think Grinspoon came out of there. You had so many bands that came out of the Lismore music uni thing when my mom was going there. And in particular, there was a guy that was going there who later went on to move to Nashville to be a producer. And I knew that my mom knew them. I remember when I was 4, we'd sometimes visit them. They had a lot of kids and I was getting on with all the kids and stuff. So I kind of was like, well, let's find this person. I found him. And then I sent an email. The email went something along the lines of, hey, I don't have the money right now, but I am busking. I will be able to save up I am looking for a quote of how much I'll need to save up to record a bunch of songs. I have 4 songs I'd like to record. Then I waited and I got an email back. And the email, it was insane because email was like, hey Amity, yes, I do know you. I do remember you. I follow your mum on Facebook. I've been seeing a lot of your stuff. Because my mom's one of those mums. She shares everything. And I'm happy to do this for free for the first 4 songs. I was like, whoa. If you are a musician, if you know, that's a big deal. So I was like, this is so cool. So I recorded some songs at home in my bedroom. I wasn't able to travel or anything at that point. I was very, very unwell. We got out, I think there was 2 songs. So Your Will and a child song. I think that was all there was that we got out at that point. And then it was, I think 2 years later, we decided, hey, let's keep doing this with a 50% partnership kind of thing. So now I work with him, and since then I've released my song Pieces, and then I released Healing, which actually had quite a bit of airplay and radio play, and then I released Cry, and then we have like several different songs in the works, which is really exciting. And I'm just so keen for next year. We've kind of come back a bit this year on releasing music. We're going to release music this year, but this year has been more focused on pre-production to be able to just get a whole bunch of songs ready and just go bam, 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 which I'm really excited about. So it's interesting because I almost gave up. I almost was like, no, I'm too sick for this. I cannot do this. And then I realized I actually can do this to some extent. Last year it was insane. I flew all over the countryside and I met a whole bunch of people that I look up to at a conference last year. If you want to see that video, I'll link it up there. I also had this time last year where I was flying in one day. I had to fly from one show to the next. That just felt crazy. I had music festivals I was doing last year. Last year was crazy. I was doing so well with my music. Healing released at the end of the year. That was crazy because I got so much airtime for that. I had a lot of interviews on podcasts and various different things. I just couldn't believe how well things were going despite my health wasn't 100%. Then came 2025. My health has been probably the worst it's ever been. My arteries aren't very happy. They keep constricting, which then causes a whole bunch of array of lovely symptoms that we totally don't actually love. So it's been really tough and I've had to try and adapt, but I am learning to adapt. It's been very difficult to learn, but I'm slowly getting back out there and doing things, and I'm really keen on what's ahead. If anything, I want to encourage everyone here to let you guys know that you can still do the things you love. Yes, it's gonna look very different. You're gonna have to make compromises. You're going to have to do things different to everyone else, but you can still achieve it. You're gonna have to be a little creative. Find a way that you can do what you love in a different capacity to what you previously thought you had to do. The beautiful thing about the music industry at the moment, or the industry of a lot of things, is a lot of things are online. So you can use the online world to your advantage. I don't travel to the studio to record anymore. I did travel once. I'll show that studio vlog. You can watch that up there. But ever since then, I've done everything in my bedroom. I've gone from being recording over there in my little studio over there to just sleeping and having a lay down because I'm just not feeling 100%. Just do what you have to do. Whatever it takes, whatever you have to do to get things done, whatever works for you, do it. You can still do the things you love. You just have to change how you're doing them. And that's okay, because adapting is always the best thing to do. I'm a big firm believer in adapting and not cutting things out completely. And unfortunately, it's unrealistic to wait around for the world to adapt for you, because that's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. Being able to get out there and find a way to adapt yourself is also really helpful. And having people around you who are helping you adapt, like having a good support system, is really helpful. I know for me, my support system has been great. Anyway, I could talk about this for a long time, but that's it for now. That's the story of how I almost gave up on a singing career because of my health. I still sometimes have those thoughts of, can I still do this? But I'm still trying and I'm still going for it. And until either I can no longer do it anymore, until God says otherwise, I will still be doing it. But anyway, that's it for me. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope that you're chasing your dreams despite the struggles that you face. Love you guys. God bless.